Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you're enjoying the content, please drop us up, drop a like, and let us know your thoughts below in the comments. Also, please consider supporting our podcast via the link below. It really helps us out. Gannon, welcome to the World XP podcast. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. So we were chatting before, and you guys had, well, actually, let's do a mini introduction, and then we'll tell the story of why people might have seen your gym on Instagram, and then we can roll right into it.
Awesome, man. So my name's Gannon, Gannon Lang. I grew up in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I am 26 years old, and I've been training jiu-jitsu for almost 9 years now. So the way we got connected is one of my students, you guys work together, and it's been a really crazy experience. My gym, Nexus American Jiu Jitsu, has been open now for about 3 months, and that has kind of been my project over this last year or so, just kind of trying to get it all set up and make sure that the social media is popping, kind of like you were mentioning. So we recently had a student just straight up fart in the other student's mouth, and I think it's sitting around 3 million views right now, so it's doing pretty
Bonkers.
decently. But yeah, man, so I grew up in Fredericksburg, went to UMW. You did as well, I hear.
Yep.
So that's really cool, small world. But I ended up dropping out after I finished my gen eds because I kind of knew like what I wanted to do. So I begrudgingly dropped out. I think it was like my sophomore year, and my parents were not so thrilled, but I was pretty excited about it. So here we are today. It's kind of worked out for me. But yeah, that's a little mini intro.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to the real thing is super interesting to me because I do soccer training for like one-on-one training and stuff on the side, and I've got a social media presence for it. And I post reels, I try to stay kind of consistent. And the most I ever ended up with like 20 something thousand views
Oh,
on
nice.
it, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like great, but it was one of the first ones, and then nothing came of that. And I've got friends that it just seems so random, ones that pop off and ones that don't. Like I've got one friend who also went to UMW. Her name's Aisha. She's been on the show a couple times. She runs a like personal training thing, and
Oh,
she had
nice.
one real pop off to similar numbers to yours, and she's sitting at like 66,000 followers now on
That's
Instagram,
great.
and just continued on with the reels. And we started our, I'll say, like journey of side hustle at similar times. And I every time I talk to him, I'm like, how come yours was like, how did you get
Yeah.
lucky and I did not? But it feels so random. So have you guys been working on the social media? Is that something that I feel like for our generation when we start side businesses and other things, the social media is a huge way. Was that a big push for you guys at first, or did you guys have a client base kind of already?
Absolutely. So, like for example, I mean, so kind of a long roundabout way to answer this. So, I just got back from California about a year ago. I was out there for 2 years, and my job was social media out there, specifically for a really big gym in the industry named Legion. I'm pretty sure they have over like 700 students now, which is pretty massive, especially for jujitsu. So big 10,000 square foot facility, 8,000 square feet of mats, like full gym in it, all the shebang, right? Like a dream gym for someone in my industry, right? And I got the opportunity to kind of like go out there. I was a sponsored athlete, and they helped me out big time. It was almost like an internship, right? So
Mm,
I did everything that a gym owner would do for 2 years, and I found that most of the leads that we were getting was it was just from social. So, for example, their account has like 50,000 followers. The owner has like 300,000 followers, and there's multiple people inside the gym that have like little micro following. So I started building my own while I was out there, and then I hired someone specifically for Nexus to make sure that we stay active on social media because not a lot of gyms do. So like you were saying, like it is kind of a numbers game, especially on Instagram Reels and all of these short form videos. It only takes one, and it will blast your account off to like crazy numbers. So, for example, I think I have like 30K or something on my personal one, but I would say a good 20,000 were from like four reels. All
yeah.
of the other, and I was posting every single day. So yeah, it's definitely a numbers game with social media.
So that's super. So are you guys on everything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we try to make sure that we stay active on especially the short form videos. So like YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, TikTok, all of the things that we can kind of shoot one time, cut up into multiple clips, and then repurpose on like multiple platforms. We go really heavy on those. We don't really touch LinkedIn too much. We don't really touch like Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
so much. Like the written word ones, it just doesn't seem to hit as well. But once I have a little bit more time and I get to quit my side jobs and things like that, I'll be putting some time into that as well, because I do think they're important, just not as important.
Yeah. LinkedIn for your space. I'll just say the fitness space generally is not super big. It's way more Instagram and YouTube Shorts and TikTok as
Yeah.
well. Um, that's super interesting though, because social media is definitely like once TikTok came out, then all of everyone else started to go short. And
Yeah.
Twitter, which used to be huge on a variety of like you used to go there for news and all sorts of stuff. Then that got weird, and then Instagram is now becoming Facebook. Have you know people are posting summer 2023 dumps, and like that used to be a thing that
Yeah.
you would pop in
Yeah.
a Facebook album like back. Is the landscape is changing. It's weird. I don't know, and I don't spend enough time, I say, researching. I know people that are in that all the time, like running social media accounts for companies and whatever
Right.
else. And I'm like, yeah, I feel like if I just am consistent, maybe one day it'll pop off. But I don't know. What's your experience been like with that? With like in terms of the gym and yourself personally, like being consistent. Like how do you? Because I know from also from personal experience, like you post every day or 3 times a week or whatever it is, and you just get like the same. Like right now on TikTok, I've got a friend running it for me, and the views have been within from between 220 to 260 on every single video.
Right. I think that it's kind of like what you were just mentioning, right? It is super super steady, and then one just goes absolutely ridiculous, and it's the one that you never thought was going to happen. Like for example, with that reel, with the fart reel or whatever we
Yeah,
call
yeah,
it, like I wasn't even going to post that because I thought it would be like, who wants to see this, you know? And then I realized people like to laugh, you know,
yeah.
and it's just it's it is a little bit of luck. Like I think that so many gurus try to like emphasize, oh yeah, you just got to stay consistent, right? Stay consistent and then you will steadily grow. But it's not like that. You stay consistent so that you can hit that knockout of the park reel, and then it just like puts you up to 60,000 followers
Yeah,
like your friend, right? I think that the whole like timing the posting and all of that stuff, I
I
just
don't
don't think
bother.
it works, bro. Like for me, I literally just tell my employees, if you can post 2 to 3 times Monday through Friday and at least once a day um on like the weekends, so like between 10 and 12 times a week on every platform, you will grow. Like it is just a fact of how it is. Like you will grow if you can get really good content every single time. You will definitely grow with that schedule. But I know people like Gary Vee and Alex Hormozy and all of these like massive dudes, like they're posting like 10 times a day on every single platform, bro. They're putting out like 100 pieces
Yeah,
of content a week. So I don't
no,
know,
it's
maybe that's
nuts.
the next level, huh?
It's nuts. It's nuts because you can also have like for jujitsu, I know it's different, but for soccer, there's only so many drills. Like if I'm training one person, there's only
Right.
so many drills that you can do. And at what point am I repeating myself? So it's kind of there's kind of that side to it. And then for this, like with the other job and soccer and everything else, I don't have the time to cut up
Yeah.
seven reels. Like go through like this conversation might last an hour or an hour and a half. I don't have time to go through the entire hour and a half and cut up 7 reels. Like I could, like right now, I've got these guys called mindset marketers doing it. They're doing we're doing basically two per episode. So I'm posting 3 times a week, which is like the episode itself and then the 2 reels slash shorts slash TikToks. And it feels like more than that gets like to hold myself to that schedule with all the other things going on because I don't make hardly anything from this. It's like
Right. Right.
it's more of a passion project more than anything, but it still intrigues me how I'll post the same thing on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, and it'll do well on one and not do well on the other
Yeah.
ones, and then it'll switch the time after that. It just feels strange. So I enjoy talking to people who are in the same or similar boat to see what their experiences have been. It feels like yours is similar.
Yeah, I think it's all context, right? Like, so for example, with soccer, like you might find, for example, on TikTok, like it's a different crowd than you'll find on Facebook. So the language that you're using in just the caption and the hashtags that you use and those types of things, it all matters, but only to a point. Like I think that the people who are saying like you have to do something completely and utterly different on every single platform, I think that's too extreme. And I think literally copy pasting it to everything is a little too basic. So there has to be like some sort of like context that you use in every platform, from my experience at least.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. So, all right. So, how did you get into jujitsu in the first place? I know we talked before that you don't have some classic bullying story, which I wasn't even gonna ask you until you said it, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that happens a lot that people have some sort of classic, oh, I was bullied and stuff in the
Yeah.
locker and blah blah blah. So I wanted to learn to fight. But so for you, you were a soccer player, and then you just decided that you wanted to do something else. Basically, is that true?
Yeah, that, like, long story short, like I was doing soccer. I was trying to go pretty much down the path that you're going down. Like I did the whole travel thing, did ODP, like went to a couple like colleges and all of that kind of stuff. But when I was 17, I remember that it was kind of like that time to pick the college that you want to play for. And I was like, man, I just don't really have the passion for this anymore. I've just done it for so long and I was looking for something else. And I had a friend who also played soccer, but his main thing was MMA. So I went to him and I was like, look, bro, like I don't really like getting punched in the face too much. But if you had to choose like one of the martial arts that you train, because they train a whole bunch of different stuff, what would it be? And he said jujitsu. And I just kind of chase it. And it's actually funny. So the guy who I asked, his brother Jake, so that guy was Christian. Jake is now one of my instructors at the gym. So he's actually trained much longer than me. We just had like he had injuries and I really got obsessed with it. He kind of like took some breaks here and there. So I'm actually going to have the pleasure of promoting the guy who got me into jujitsu to black belt pretty soon here, which is super cool. But yeah.
That is cool. So what's the path then? So in martial arts, there's the belts and stuff. What's the path for jujitsu?
So starting at white belt, it usually takes about 10 years to get a black belt. It's like a legit degree. So from white to blue, it's usually like a year, maybe year and a half. From blue to purple, 2 to 3 years, purple to brown, 2 to 3 years, and then maybe like 1 to 2 years from brown to black. So everything averaged, like I've seen people promoted in 5 years. I've seen people promoted in like 20 years. I got mine at, I think it was almost exactly 8 years. So I mean, it was literally like a college degree for me. I mean, and I dropped everything for it, and that's considered quick. So I don't know. To me, it didn't feel quick, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So what's the like criteria to get from like how would you decide if somebody like what's the ceremony or right in college you've got your thesis or your exam or
Right.
whatever, like what's the criteria to move on from belt to belt?
So typically that kind of like is determined by the lineage you're in. So my lineage is very sportive, and it's not like that whole you have to pay for your belt and you have to test for your belt and all of that kind of stuff. That's more like karate and taekwondo. With jujitsu, you're on the mat so much, like it's a lifestyle. It truly is. Like for example, coming up while I was training to get like my purple belt, for example, I would be training 2 to 3 times a day, and I'm sure you understand that. Like getting serious in soccer, it's like any other sport. So the coaches see you day in day out. They don't really test you, they just say, okay, this guy's clearly ready. Like he's just head and shoulders above everyone else at his belt. And there are ways that you can kind of like expedite the process. So for example, like I would compete all the time. When you win a bunch of tournaments at blue belt, it only makes sense that you go to purple, same thing at purple, and so on. And usually right around the time where you get your purple belt, you start to face some black belts, right? So when I was a purple belt, most of the people that I was fighting were like brown or black belts, and I typically would do well with them. So I kind of expedited the second half of that process. But for some people that don't compete, it can take them literally like 15 years to get a black belt.
Hmm. Sounds like a long time.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, so that's interesting because okay, so in I'll say pop culture, we've seen Zuckerberg is doing jujitsu
Yeah.
and Elon is trying to fight him or whatever is going on with that.
Yeah.
And Rogan has gotten everybody into jujitsu. It feels so for you 9 years ago, 2014. That feels very pre I'll say jujitsu boom. So
Yeah.
is that accurate? So what's your experience been like having jumped in before that and then watching it explode? I feel like there's a certain level of kind of poking fun at the jujitsu bro now
Yeah.
and all sorts of various things. So what's been your experience? Because you saw it all the way, you saw it happen, you experienced it, you were in it already. So what's been your experience with that?
Yeah, man. Like you hit it right on the head. I mean, I think that Rogan has probably been the biggest catalyst for jujitsu in the last 20 years. Like jujitsu's only been around in America for probably like 20 to 30 years. So I'm pretty sure that I was one of the first, not like one of the first people doing it around here, but definitely in Fredericksburg, I was one of the first people doing it. I remember back in the day when I started, there were probably only like 3 or 4 black belts in the entire area. And now there's like 30, 40, something like that, kind of floating around. And like people have fallen off. People don't even train anymore. Some people are really big into it and they've moved other places to do it. But the general feel that I've found is it went from people saying, oh yeah, jujitsu, right? Like they do the kias at you and stuff like that. So now they have a general idea of what it's actually like. It's just so different from what you would see in like Cobra Kai. It's just so different than that. It's much more relaxed, and I think that it's become that. You know how like surfing and skateboarding are kind of like those pop culture, like the cool sports, the cool thing to do. I think that jujitsu is kind of being perceived in that same way. So a lot of people are like, for example, all the celebrities doing boxing. Now we're seeing a lot of celebrities, like you mentioned, doing jujitsu as well. I think everyone wants to be Conor McGregor. I think that the UFC had a big part in making people want to jump in.
Yeah, that's interesting. The thing you mentioned about not there being 3 or 4 black belts, 30 or 40. I had a MMA fighter on, and for in the, like the amateur sort of circuit, you can only there's only so many people at a certain like
Man.
that you can train with or spar or whatever before it's like not worth the time or
Yeah.
whatever the case is. So that's super interesting because let's see. So when did you get your black belt? Like a year ago, 2 years ago?
Exactly. Yeah, just almost
Okay.
exactly a year ago, a little over it.
So at that point, because okay, so you were in California. When did you get back to Fredericksburg?
So I told them when I went out there as a brown belt that my entire goal was to get my black belt under Keenan. So the guy who I got my black belt under is like a multiple time world champion. I've looked up to him since like day one. It's essentially like I got my black belt from Kobe in our sport, essentially.
Hmm.
And he is, I mean, pretty much everything I ever imagined. Super hardworking. He trains it all the time. And everyone in California, like in the jujitsu world, everyone looks at California. It's like, like it's just like the place to be. And my goal was always to take that and bring it back to Fredericksburg because I think like why wouldn't I? It's like big fish, small pond, right? So I saw a business opportunity, one, but I also saw like just being able to to be that person from Fredericksburg to kind of like bring high level jujitsu here. Everyone moves to Texas, to Florida, to California to kind of like make their jujitsu dreams come true, and I want Fredericksburg to be that place.
Gotcha. So where along the line, so I'm trying to work through in your head where the end state was for you. So was it always the goal to go out to Cali? And then while you were there, like when did the idea pop up that you were going to instruct slash open your own gym instead of just train like yourself and compete and do all like where did that happen? Because in terms of competition age, right? You're 26, so you're a year younger than me. We're both still like in terms of like competitive age, physical like prime, you're in it. So where did you like are you still competing or where like what was the thought process the whole way? So you drop out and then like and you're doing jujitsu and you're like the goal is blank. Like where was that thought process for you and along the way?
So it really shifted pretty quickly because when I dropped out, my idea was I had plenty of people just taking private lessons from me, and the beauty of being like big fish small pond is I can pretty much charge what I want, and I had pretty high pricing. I could like completely like sustain myself from just the private lessons. Where I started to kind of shift there was it just wasn't an easy life because like you probably know like just having clients and having them, some people like some months are really good, some months are kind of rough, and I just wanted stability, so I was like I need to form like a legitimate business around this because the competitive thing is really cool, but there's not a lot of money in jiu-jitsu. Like for example, I got invited to a pretty big promotion named Kazai in New York. And I went out there and I won by submission, got the bonus, got like everything that I could possibly get. After everything was said and done, after my hotel and all of that, I think I came back with like $200 or $300 of like profit from the whole experience. So it's like
Yeah.
that's not exactly sexy. So I think that it was just the realization that if I'm going to make this, like if I'm going to hit the financial goals that I want, I'm going to need to figure out how to like become an entrepreneur of some sort. So I think it was probably like a year after I dropped out. So I think I dropped out in what was it, 2017, maybe
Hmm.
2018. So by 2019, I had competed quite a bit. Like I was competing every single weekend.
Were
I
you purple belt already by then?
Exactly. Yeah. So I was a purple belt, and right when I got my purple belt, it crossed my mind to drop out. 6 months later, I did do that just because at purple belt you can compete with the black belts, which means you can make that type of money. Before purple belt, you literally cannot make anything in competitive jiu-jitsu, or at least at the time you couldn't. Nowadays things are different. There's a lot more people interested in it. Um, but still like my biggest thing was I value freedom over money, but money is still important, of course. So I think over this past year a lot has shifted in my focus is pretty far away from competition and mostly just like funneling all of my energy into Nexus. Once Nexus is kind of built out a little bit, I'll probably start looking at competitions again, especially because I don't want to be the coach that sits on the sidelines. I want to be kind of like on the front lines with everyone else.
Yeah. So, okay, so you drop out, you're competing, you're doing private lessons, then COVID happens. And so when did you go to, so Cali would have been what, 2021 to when was
So I
Cali?
I went out to Cali literally the day that I could after lockdowns. I was waiting through that because I got the invite because so Keenan Cornelius, he has like maybe 300,000 followers on Instagram, something like that. And I have a system that I kind of created named Anubis Guard. So it is a kind of a system of techniques that I use to win a whole bunch of competitions. And what I was finding is a lot of people were biting it, like they were posting about it and not giving me credit, and Keenan happened to be one of them. So a lot of my followers, I already had a decent following. I had like 5, 6,000 followers, and hundreds of people DM'd him just telling him like, you need to give Gannon credit, blah 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 blah. I was literally taking a nap, and I wake up to my phone blown up because he posted something. A bunch of people like kind of got at him about it, so he did the cool guy thing and invited me out to California so that I could film the instructional for his instructional platform named Jiu Jitsu X. They're big Elon Musk fans, so the Jiu Jitsu X is super fitting. So I ended up going out there for a week, and they invited me to stay, and I was like, oh hell yeah. So I went back home, got all of my stuff together, and I that was literally right when COVID hit, so it was like a couple of months were spanning in between this, but right after we could leave, I went out there. Still remember wearing the face diaper all the way to California. But yeah.
Damn. So okay, so run. Okay, so all right, let's backtrack slightly. So when you say you created a technique, run through kind of for people that have no clue what it like what jujitsu is or how the technique works or like give some so people can visualize what you are kind of talking about a little bit.
For sure. So in jujitsu, there is a term named guard passing. Essentially, imagine someone on their back, someone standing up. The person on their back is playing guard because if the person on top cannot get around my legs and put their chest on my chest, commonly referred to as side control, if anyone knows what that is, they're playing guard. So it's a system as the person on bottom to either sweep, which means come up and basically like sweep the person over. So the bottom person becomes the top person, or the bottom person submits the top person. So I created a series of guards, especially around leg locks. That's kind of my shtick. That's what I do. So I created a system of leg locks from the bottom that kind of help a smaller person deal with a bigger person is like the best way that I can explain it without getting into very specific details of the techniques.
So how do you so I guess is the sport is new enough that um that is feasible. Like soccer or basketball, a lot of these things have like it's very rare now to see
Hard to
someone come
reinvent
up
the wheel.
with a new skill or whatever.
Yeah.
So is the sport new enough where people are coming up with new stuff all the time?
Definitely. And that was kind of what got Keenan's attention with me originally, because he was the first guy in America, especially, to kind of mess around with lapels. So we wear these uniforms named gis. So all of the gis have these lapels, right? And basically my system involves me wrapping the person up with that lapel and kind of tripping them with it. So Keenan was the first person to do that, and I kind of iterated off of what he was doing, but it was a completely different system, and that was kind of where the confusion was. So yeah, the sport is definitely still young enough that I could like take a small piece of the pie and kind of make it mine and brand it, and that's kind of like what I've been running with. I've definitely done super well with the instructional there, and I get, so for example, I have 3 seminars next month, one in Tennessee, and then 2 in Northern Virginia. So all of them typically want me to go over Anubis guard because it's just something that I have that no one else does.
That's wild. Yeah, Brent. Yeah. So when I was introduced to you, it didn't occur to me about the sport. So okay, so walk me through this, right? So you've got this thing that's yours, and a bunch of your friends are telling Keenan to tag you in it. Um, is there so how did it work then? Did you know before that you had made this up, or did you think that you had made it up and then you're like, oh, somebody else has probably done this before me, or and then after you realize that Keenan took interest, are you like, oh, now I have to market it and go after
Yeah.
this, or kind of like how does it work? Because there's obviously fundamentals of jujitsu that you would need anyways. Like as an instructor, you're not only doing that one thing.
Right.
So how did the marketing for that work? How did the light bulb for you go off? Like what went into that when that moment happened? Not necessarily the you getting invited out to Cali, but post, like what you could do with that.
So before Keenan even got involved, I was trying to market it as like my own because I knew that eventually someone was going to try and claim it if I didn't already, because people were
Mm,
already kind of like using things that were similar to it. I just systemize it and put names to the positions, and kind of like I filmed it before anyone else. So it's like someone may have messed with it before, but I like branded it. And I think that like there were probably people that were messing with it for years prior to me, and they were super super pissed off, kind of like my fans were when Keenan did it. So I think it was just the fact that I put the pen on the paper that people couldn't take it after that. So then afterwards, like as far as so your other question was kind of like how did I go about like marketing it after
yeah.
Keenan kind of made contact. So just me being in the same conversation as Keenan, it kind of made everything pop off, because he's that big in the industry. So it kind of gave me this cachet of like, oh, he's involved with Keenan, so he must know what he's talking about. So then everything I said kind of had that legitimacy. And
Mm,
I was also posting it a lot on social media, and that's kind of where all of those followers came. So in between the time of Keenan acknowledging me and me getting my black belt, I gained like 25, 30,000 followers throughout the process. And I was also featured on Jiu-Jitsu X, which it itself has hundreds of thousands of followers. So I kind of became the one of the characters in not only my personal brand, Legion, which is that big gym, and Jiu-Jitsu X all at the same time. So it was kind of like a culmination of like a whole bunch of different catalysts that kind of like gave me the opportunity to like make money off of it.
mm. So how did you deal with that personally as a going from, oh, I'm just from Fredericksburg and I'm just doing jujitsu and I'm doing all right, and this guy noticed me and that's pretty cool, to now all of a sudden, not that you're on exactly the same as him, but the role has changed for you in the
Yeah.
industry. Like how did you deal with that, or like
Man,
personally?
it was absolutely surreal. Like in the beginning, I kind of felt this weird pressure that I had to put Fredericksburg on my back, right? Every single tournament that I went to, it was like I was representing way more than myself, and I was like that kid from like, because in California, Fredericksburg, Virginia, small. Like
Yeah, yeah,
like it is not even like they probably never even heard of it, right?
yeah.
So I was that the hillbilly kid, even though I speak like without a southern draw. They all saw me kind of like that out there, right? So at first it was a lot of pressure, and then I kind of leaned into it because I always had this my dad always told me it was like when this does happen, because I planned on like trying to get bigger on social media and stuff like way far in advance, probably in back in like 2016, like soon after I found that, oh, if I win tournaments and I post videos of me winning these tournaments, people just follow me, right? So um it kind of started there, and gradually I kind of got used to the idea of like I want to be the best person to ever come out of Fredericksburg for jiu-jitsu. So that it kind of shifted from like it being pressure to it being like the fuel to everything that I'm doing right now. So for example, with Nexus, like we are the only American jiu-jitsu school in Fredericksburg. It is literally the exact same thing as Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's just a marketing ploy, but it gives us just that little spice that no one else has, just us calling it something else. It's the first question we always get. What's the difference between American and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu? Absolutely nothing. It's just a culture difference. Um, so Yeah, man, I think like it was a really big shock to see how quickly it happened. I thought it was going to be a gradual thing and probably like right around now I would be starting to get some attention, but if anything, it was like a huge spike of attention, and then I came back to Fredericksburg and now I've been kind of chilling out, but I do have a lot of plans to like to get back in that and that kind of comes with building out Nexus so that I can jump back into competitions, because now I have a whole bunch of connections with big promoters just being out in California. Like they've already told me that whenever I'm good to jump back in, I have a lot of options. So
Well, that's good to hear.
yeah.
It's always good. Have you been um was it difficult to stay sort of grounded as the plane was taking off, for to use the worst metaphor? And
Yeah, I think that my wife definitely helps me with that. So I have been married for a little bit over a year now. My lovely wife Zanetta, we met in the fighter's house in California. So she's been training for actually longer than me.
mm,
And she is ridiculously talented in all of her own ways. And she was bigger than me on social media when I met her. So I think that it was less that I'm trying to get big for myself. I just wanted as many followers as she had, to be honest, just because,
oh, that's
like it like
wild.
you don't want to be the Instagram girl's boyfriend. So I was trying to like gain followers for myself so that we could be on somewhat equal footing for the first like year of it or whatever. But after a while, it just becomes numbers on a screen. You don't even realize it. And then, for example, like just the other day, I went to Wawa and someone recognized me off of Instagram, and that was a very odd feeling in public, because like in the jujitsu world, I'm completely used to like people knowing who I am, but now it's starting to like leak over into my regular life, which is kind of cool, but kind of odd at the same time. So it's a weird transition for sure.
Yeah, walk me through what went through your head in Wawa. Somebody comes up to you and you're like, what's going on in your head?
I just tried to think back to like what can I do to like make this guy's day? So I like took a picture with him. I kind of like talked to him for like 5-10 minutes. Like I like really took the time to try and like appreciate this guy for even giving a damn about me. Because like to me, I'm not that big of a deal, but to this guy, like he has only trained for like a week, and to him, like what I'm doing is what he wants to do. So I'm just trying to figure out how I can be a role model without losing myself completely, because I am anything but a role model in many ways. But I'm trying to kind of like fake it till I make it with in that regard.
Yeah, 100%. Like we had the same similar experience with Fredericksburg Fire. I don't know if it's the arena team that plays at the field
Oh,
house.
I have definitely heard of. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we would have kids at the games, and like the toughest thing was taking a tough L, and then
Right.
and then the owner puts me at the table signing autographs, and I've got like 5-year-olds coming up to talk to me, and they're like,
Dude,
"Oh,
that's so
it's like."
cool. That is so
um
cool.
yeah, so it was kind of I I know what you mean. It's weird. So like you gotta put the smile on and remember that even though to you it's just like whatever, and you want to go home and blah blah blah.
Right.
But to them, it's like they have no
It's
idea that
everything.
we're getting paid peanuts, and it's just at the field house and whatever. And yeah, it's weird. And that was one of the reasons though why I did love it so much, because you have the ability just to impact somebody and like impact somebody's day. And they'll remember that, and then the parents know as well. It's like they're usually very gracious afterwards. Like, oh, thanks for like we'd have kids. Oh, can you sign his shirt? It's like, yeah, sure, no problem.
Dude, that's
Um,
so cool. That's so
it
cool.
was weird. As I never imagined I was going to be in that situation either, to be totally to be totally honest. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird having. I don't know. I feel like humans are not really supposed to be in that situation, generally speaking, as
Yeah,
people.
man.
Like certain people can deal with it for sure better than others. But like you get celebrity like Rogan, like how does that dude go anywhere? Or just
Oh my
Kevin
dude.
Hart or like Messi, for instance. Like you can't live your life. Like it's not a real life. that they're
Bro,
living. I don't get it.
just imagine being in Messi or Ronaldo's like shoes for like a day. You
Nope.
go anywhere and there are like or like Adam Sandler, like someone who literally, if I said it, everyone would know their name. It's just insane to me, like having my little like speck of like attention compared to these guys who are actually doing some crazy things. I can only imagine what their lives are like. It must be honestly annoying. I don't
Yeah.
even know if I want that level of fame, bro.
No, no,
I,
no.
I
You
don't
don't.
I don't
You
know.
don't. I don't.
I
You
just want the
Messi.
money, bro. I'm not
When Messi came to Miami, there's a clip of him. They went to the grocery store because he hadn't like gotten mobbed yet, and then two people saw him in the store, and the video is him asking his wife for the keys to the car, and he went back to. They had been in the store for 2 minutes, and he just went back to the car. He's like, "No, I'm out, man. I'm out. I
yeah.
don't." And that's I think a lot of soccer players actually from Europe vacation in the U.S. so they can get away from it. So yeah, man, no, I don't. You can't even just exist. You have one. You have no moments to yourself at that point, and like people need to unwind and all this other stuff. So, like, how can you? You can't do that. You can't just go on a walk because you have 17 million people like asking for pictures and whatever else. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like they expect you to be a role model every second of your life too, Like it like God forbid you have a terrible day and then some like unknowing fan comes up and they like pat you on the back and you're like, "Yo, like don't touch me," like that kind of thing. Just having a terrible day and like you look bad on camera or whatever it may be. Ugh.
Yeah, that's why I think Rogan does such a good job because he just exists. It's like he doesn't even think about it.
Yeah. Dude, he's
There's
he's just yeah.
there's something like he's equipped to deal with it in a way that not a lot of people are, or at least it seems like it, right? Like I had I was in Austin last summer to see I don't know if you follow comedy at all, but do you know who Tony Hinchcliffe is?
I feel like I've heard the name, but no.
So he's got a show down in Austin that plays at a Rogan's Club. And before it was at Rogan's Club, I had the guitarist for the show on the podcast, so he got us tickets. So we went down there and like we got basically we're right next to the stage and all these
Dude,
cool
that's
people
dope.
were there and what was interesting was um to see them up close, like you forget that they're people also because
Yeah.
you're listening to them all the time or you're seeing them on a stage or like an imaginary pedestal. And then you in a small comedy club you realize, oh, they're just like a person. Then
Yeah.
it's weird because then I didn't feel the need to go say anything to him. I was like, what is he gonna say to me? Like, what is he gonna say to me that's gonna make my day? Like, I don't. It's like it's cool that I'm here to watch somebody who's amazing at what they do what they do, but I don't need to say hi to him. Like, it would be cool to get a picture or whatever, but I'm not gonna be that. It's like, what is he like? What is he gonna say to me? Oh, have a nice day. It's like, okay,
Yeah. What's he gonna say that's like so profound that like
yeah.
changes either of our lives? I totally hear you on that. Like I do think that kind of going back to one of your questions before, like how to deal with that, like that quick rise, so to
Hmm.
speak, like I was already around people who had been dealing with that kind of stuff for years. So
Hmm.
it was so normal in California, like everyone wants to be big on social media. It's just a thing out there. And in Fredericksburg, you don't really see that. And if they're
No,
doing it, they're doing it for a business specifically. Like there aren't a lot of influencers out here, quote
none,
unquote. But
none
out in
really.
California, everyone and their grandmother is an influencer. Like for like to give you a better idea of like what this gym was like we had the Olympic judo coach, we had Patty the Batty in there, we had like Dominic Cruz, we had like all of these big UFC people. So like on any given day you would see someone that you have seen on TV has millions of followers and they're a completely normal person. We had people there who literally have trained with Conor McGregor and like his friends and things like that in the gym, and you're just constantly around these people. So it's like it feels like you're a eighth grader sitting at the seniors table, and you're just like
Mm,
trying to fit in, and you're trying not to say too much because you don't want to say something to put your foot in your mouth. And eventually you just learn how to be cool and just be normal with it.
yeah, that's interesting that you went there because I hadn't I've asked some people that because I have a friend of mine, or a teammate of mine actually. He's from Argentina, and he went down there for the summer to. He was coaching futsal and playing for some other stuff, and he ended up on his cousin's. His cousin was like, "Oh, do you want to come play for my team?" It's like, sure. His cousin is an actor, and it just happened to be all famous Argentinian
Oh man,
like models and actors and singers who have like millions and millions of followers.
dude.
My teammate Sebastian, he had no clue, so he just treated them all like they were people, and they're still friends because he just treated them like they were like he was yelling at them to
Yeah,
pass them the ball on the like the correct foot. It's like why would
right.
you play it on the left foot? You put me into 50-50, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
And he said he had no idea until like 3 weeks later they posted a picture of the starting 11 or whatever, and he was like clicking on the tags, and he was like, "Holy
you're like,
shit, who are
whoa.
these people?"
You're like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
the?
So back to that point, like when you walk into that gym and you're seeing the who's who of UFC and jiu-jitsu, was there a starstruck moment, or
Oh,
like how was that for you then on the flip side? Because obviously you made the rise, but on like entering in, how was that?
oh man, it was just straight up stars in the eyes, bro. Like I also worked for Jiu-Jitsu X, so it was like a daily basis we would have a new person coming into the gym that was like the biggest person out there. So I was the person who had to like speak to these people, bring them back to film, hang out with them. They do their techniques on me. I'm hanging out with these guys all the time. And I think I had like a similar experience to your friend. Like I already knew what they were like, who they were, but I had to act natural or they would never come back to film with us. So it was kind of like my job to be like
Yeah.
kind of fake cool with these
Well,
guys, and
he
not
didn't
fake
even
cool
he
because
didn't
they're cool
even
people,
know.
but that's crazy. I mean, that's like a completely different experience. Like for me, I was like literally physically trying not to be the starry-eyed guy.
Yeah, that's why that's so interesting. Like, so Sebastian, he didn't even know. That was the part that made it wacky. Like, he had no idea because he's
Yeah.
not Argentinian. So he just yelled at them anyways. So like,
Man,
so for you, that's so wild to be. Was that nerve-wracking?
definitely, like especially in the beginning, like towards like after a year you just get completely used to it. They're
Yeah.
humans, but in the beginning it was I saw my time out in California as a business venture, so
Mm,
every time that I would go and speak to this new person that is just bigger, like big as anything, right? I would not in a manipulative, not like to manipulate them, but it's like I actually genuinely tried to befriend these guys because that just me being next to them raises my cachet. So eventually I just made enough like friends, and jujitsu people in general are pretty chill and relaxed. Like they don't take themselves so seriously. There were a handful of those though, unfortunately, but like the ones that were cool, I really hit it off with them. And like, for example, I was just talking about the Olympic judo coach. He just texted me yesterday on like a super casual basis, which is just like that is still surreal to me. Like being connected to these like super high up people and just finding mentors out there because dude, so little sidebar, like I'm super into crypto and trading and things like that,
hmm.
and I was giving private lessons to a multimillionaire without even knowing it for over a year. And then later when I started getting into trading, he's like, "Yo, bro, if you're into this, try X, Y, and Z." And I like started looking into this guy that I've known for over a year, and he's made like $20 million in the stock market. So it's like, wow, there are like you never know who that wolf in sheep's clothing is, and I think just like treating everyone with some grace and respect, it just goes a long way. Especially
Oh,
in business. Like people think that like to do business with someone, you have to be like super upfront and serious. It's like, bro, if you're just relaxed with these people, that's going to be the real way to actually make connections. Because I mean, any millionaire, billionaire that I have met, they tell me that the most important thing is their network. So, yeah.
yeah, 100, dude. That's so true. And what's wild is, yeah, like exactly like you said, you just treat like if you treat everybody with a certain degree of respect, like you never know who these people are because half the time they don't want to be known as like, oh, that's that guy. On the flip side, though, to your point about making the connections, treading the line between these guys probably hear 18 million business propositions a day between, oh, you want to invest in this and that different
Yeah.
thing, and like you gotta be careful with. how you approach them in a way where it's like you and I both know who you are. You and I both know that you're like if we were friends, you would help me, but we're not going to talk about that right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's like a weird energy because those people are very aware of for the most part of like who they are and what they can bring to the table. Um, and so when you approach it in a genuine way, like just being a genuine person or treating people with respect, it makes them feel, or generally, I'll say, it's not like I've been in any of these rooms, but I feel like generally speaking, it feels like they would be a lot more open to then helping you out, right? It took a year before that
Yeah.
guy was like, "Hey, like if you want tips, let me know," right?
Yeah.
It takes time, and because you can't just go up to him the first day and be like, "Hey, can you give me
Yeah.
tips?" Because he'll be like, "No."
Yeah, it's too much. You gotta it's like asking a girl out on a date. It's like if you just go up to him first time meeting them and you're like, yo, we're gonna just jump in the bathroom, right? It's like, nah, like that's not how it's gonna work. You have to like woo them, right? And
Yeah,
I think that like persuasion is like a dirty word, but persuading someone in a positive way is a skill. In my
yeah,
opinion, it's that's sales, that's like all of these different things. And I think that like I've done a lot of study on persuasion, because it's crazy. I want people to like me, right? And I think I think that just going in with that mindset, like you were talking about, and like coming into it with like without a selfish thing in your mind will then benefit you.
yeah,
And if I feel that if I go through life just being friendly and just being who I am unapologetically, so I'm gonna make friends, I'm gonna make enemies, and hopefully my friends are in higher up places than my enemies.
yeah. Because you always you never want to be for the whatever the saying is, you never want to be the smartest person in the room. So you always want to be
Ever, ever.
aiming up. Um, and because the people you surround yourself with are, I don't know, I found it to be very true. Like my friends from college, great guys, but they're not like
Mhm.
entrepreneurial English. Um and so we still talk all the time, but then as I've done the podcast and I've started my own soccer training stuff and I'm doing all these things, the more people I've found speaking with people like you is just happening more, I guess. And there's
Yeah.
no like reason for it. It just kind of the energy that I'm putting out there, and the same for you. I'm sure the energy that you're putting out there is kind of what you're getting back. Okay, so you mentioned sales. So let's get into you started the business. What was the trigger for that? What did you have enough capital? You got two guys that are helping you out. Like when did you decide you're like, okay, I need to scale this private lesson thing? Um, go. Like
Cool.
what was the thought process for that and how did that work?
So I think the main catalyst, like I already knew that I had an idea that I wanted to open a gym once I got my black belt when I went out to California.
Right.
What really sold me on it was I got put on so I did up like 20 different jobs in the same gym, but the one that stuck the most was sales, just because I had a natural aptitude for it. And I I realized quickly that if I can master this, I can become unlimitedly wealthy. Because it is one of the only jobs where you actually get paid for the effort that you put in. I don't want to trade my time for uh, a set amount of money ever.
Yeah.
So I think that that realization was the big catalyst where it was like, okay, I need to get things going. I need to like, I know that if I can sell for someone else, I can definitely sell for myself,
Mm.
because I won't make the mistakes that I see other people doing. Luckily, I was in a great gym. Like they didn't do they never made it difficult. They made it so easy for me to sell for them that it was ridiculous. Because they had a fantastic product. So I started concocting this plan, right? So I had two people that were already in, like they had already mentioned to me, yo, if you ever start a gym, you hit me up. I have some money and we'll do this. One of them or actually no, both of them I spoke to already on a regular basis. We were already friends, and one of them, or actually both of them, were already my students, but one was exclusively a private lesson student, and then the other one I trained with all the time, just in regular training.
Yeah.
Um, so The one that so let me see. I don't want to give too much of his information away because he's a very well off individual, very
No,
well
don't.
off.
Yeah,
Like
you
yeah,
don't got to give
like
his
and
secrets away or
so
whatever.
long story short, one of the silent investors, um, putting money into the gym was like a no brainer for him. He doesn't even care if he gets his money back, but he will with interest. But so we had that guy, and then I've had like over 10 people hit me up with tens of thousands of dollars trying to invest, but I'm very very picky with who I do business with because I look at it as a 10-year plan rather than like, oh yeah, we can chop it up, do some business for 6 months and then throw it out and go for another thing. Um, like for me, I think very short term, but also very big picture. And my business partner, the one that is like an operational business partner, not the silent investor, he is very good at the details. He's very good at the day to day, and I just drive the ship in a general direction, and he is keeping the ship in working order, essentially.
Hmm. So what did you have to get in? So what did you have to get in place? Like you had to get a space, you had to outfit the space, you had
Yeah.
to get all the equip. I don't really know what equipment, if any, is required, but you had to, I don't know, get the permits, the insurance, I'm sure, waivers, and all sorts of various things. How was that? Was that process easy or
So I
smooth-ish?
I wish I could tell you. So that was kind of the way that we had it set up is so that business partner he's like 30. So he has a little bit more life experience. His dad was a lawyer, so he's used to contracts and things like that. He, for the most part, dealt with that kind of stuff while I started marketing because that's just my strong suit. So he dealt with a lot of like the paperwork with us getting the space, like all of the documents and things like that. Like I was aware of them, but he
Hmm.
put in the actual work to make it happen while I was working on social media and hiring and like vision boards and like basically the 1 year, 5 year, 10-year goals and how we're going to get there. Um, so all of that paperwork stuff was a literal nightmare. We were planning to be open 6 months prior to when we actually opened. Which is also why I think we were so prepared and why we're break even already or over break even profitable in 3 months, which I don't think a lot of businesses are, especially in jujitsu. But
Probably not.
yeah, I think it's a culmination of a lot of things, right? Like I've been planning on this for a very long time. I have way more capital than a lot of other gyms starting out. I have way more instructors than people have coming out because most jujitsu gyms, like you could imagine, you go into a jujitsu gym brand new. It's probably one black belt and a whole bunch of new people, like no one other than that black belt that you can really ask questions to. I have like 10 people that someone could come to for good jujitsu knowledge that is not me.
How'd you
Um,
hire?
so I had kind of
So the reason I ask is because if you've got a certain way of like, so for me and my soccer stuff, eventually I want to kind of do what you did, but for soccer. But I'm nervous about it because I'll say the variety of things that I bring to the table, I don't know if like, I don't want somebody to come to my place and then get shortchanged
crap service.
or yeah, yeah, or
Yeah,
whatever, right? And so is that selection done just by the fact that they have a black belt,
no,
basically? No.
no.
How did you decide on what the factors were? Like how would you were like, okay, they need to have this, and this, and we'd prefer them not have this, but that's not a deal breaker. And like,
Yeah.
how did you go through all that?
So that's a fantastic question. So how I started it was number one, in jujitsu, especially now that there's more people in jujitsu, more girls specifically in jujitsu, I needed all of my instructors to be either married with a long-term girlfriend or I just didn't have to worry about them being creepy. That was the number one thing that I
Probably,
looked for because
yeah.
and check this out. We now have more girls than any school in the area.
Do you have
Literally
women instructors as well?
Oh yeah, we have
Okay.
multiple. So we have I'm pretty sure yeah, I'm pretty sure my wife is probably the best female jujitsu person in the area, which kind of like just worked out well.
Yeah.
Um, but also we have Amanda who is like right there with her. Like it like we have two of the best females in the area. So that was the first test. Like if you're creepy in any way, if I have to worry about you creeping on any of the girls, it's out, you know? And
How did you figure that out? Because I feel like that's a little bit like if you just ask somebody, they'll be like, "No, not me," and then like you watch them 3 weeks later, and you're like, "All right, this guy." How did
yeah,
you? What was the mechanism for sorting that out?
so all of the people that I've hired, I've known for 5+ years.
Oh, well,
So
that'll do it.
I've trained with them, I've hung out with them, I know their backstories, I know their ex-girlfriends, I know their current wives and things like that. I just know generally how they are. Like I know that I could leave them in the room with my wife and not have to lose sleep over it. You know,
Yeah.
so that was like my first litmus test. Another thing is, and this might help you with your hiring process. It was the second and probably one of the more important ones, probably right after that first one, was if this person can do 70% of what I can do, I'm good with that. You know,
Mm,
if they can do 70%, because you don't want them to do like 50%, because then it's like kind of meh product progress, right? But you're never going to find someone who can do 100%. You know, it's like because you yourself have put in the hours and the dedication of like your brain just saying, like, this is my vision for this business. This is what I want it to look like. And you put in all of that legwork.
hmm.
And like, don't get me wrong, all of my instructors are absolutely fantastic, but I just needed 70% from them. If they can do that, I feel that I can fill in the gaps from the time that I'm there to kind of like bridge that. And if I see something glaringly obvious that needs improvement, I'll say something. But generally I kind of have a rock star staff. Like I got very lucky. And all of these people, like I said, I've been vetting them for 5 years, and a lot of people don't have that luxury. Um, and honestly, like people just know like Nexus is the place to be. So I had more instructors than I could handle. So we had to tell certain people that it's like, look, bro, like we have too many. Like we are brand new and we can't afford to pay 20 instructors, but we can't afford to pay seven. So that's typically where I've done it. And like I think the third thing that I was looking for is I don't want people that are comfortable working for me forever. I want motivated individuals that I can eventually groom into them starting their own thing. So my long-term goal is the purple belts that are under me now, by the time that they're black belts, I want them to be looking at creating their own school. And when that happens, I get dividends. Right. So that's just
Mm.
kind of how it works in jujitsu. Like anyone who is under your lineage, you typically get a piece of the pie. So if I can mold these like 21-year-olds, these 22-year-olds into like 3 or 4 years down the road when they're mine and your age, they're going to be ready to go and like do their own thing. And I will have given them all of the tools and more that they can recreate what I'm doing. And hopefully we'll have 5 to 10 schools eventually where all of them are kind of like preaching the good word, so to speak.
And then it just snowballs from there.
Yeah.
Very nice. That sounds that well. I was gonna ask what the future plan was, but you kind of just went into it. That's cool, man. That's super cool. I love to hear that people are kind of making their own path and doing stuff because I don't know. I'm very new into just paying attention. I still don't really like watching fights and things like that, but I pay enough attention to kind of I don't know. It's cool because the people that choose to do it, there's something, and I was talking to Manny's an MMA guy that's been on the podcast a few times. It's like the willingness to step inside a cage or a ring or a mat with somebody knowing that you guys are about to pummel each other is like it takes courage, and then obviously you're kind of I don't know, it's just cool. The mindset is cool of somebody that chooses to compete in a martial art or a sport like that. So yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. So I guess all right, so that's I guess the plan moving forward. Where can the people find you on the socials, or where can people find the gym?
Awesome, man. So you can find my personal stuff at Gannon_Lang on pretty much any platform. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, or X, Threads, literally anything that you can think of. I'm on there and I'm posting pretty decently regularly. And then for Nexus, it's Nexus_AJJ, same thing. And then Nexus AJJ .com, like we have a blog section that kind of gives people an idea of what we're about, what we like to do. The Instagram is probably the best resource for that kind of stuff. It kind of shows our personality. Like I really try and show
Part videos.
yes, yeah, exactly. If I could just like give all of my instructors beans every day, we would have 10 million followers already. Um, but yeah, man, we just try and like communicate that we are not that militaristic balls to the wall gym. Like this is more of a club where you will make friends and learn jujitsu as well. But we still kick ass. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, fair enough. Any last nickels before we get you out of here?
No, man, I just want to really thank you for taking the time. This was a lot of fun.
Good, man. Glad you enjoyed it. I learned loads. For those listening, all the links and stuff will be in the description as always. We will see you next time. Peace.